All right, hey folks. So today we're going to be talking about good sources of protein. Now, I'll be honest, it pains me a little bit even to have to make this video because I didn't think that this level of misconception was still out there. So I was talking to a prospective client today, and we were discussing increasing protein. And he mentioned to me that as part of breakfast, he likes to have his oatmeal with honey and banana. And to increase the protein content in that, he asked me what I thought of adding in peanut butter. So now, for some of you regulars, you'll be shaking your head, and I get that. But what I've learned from a lifetime of sort of like teaching and educating people is you never really know where the holes in people's education are unless you probe a little bit further, because you never know. I can say something and think you guys are on the right page, but there might be misconceptions. And I think this is probably a big one. So the misconception that foods like peanut butter, avocado, etc., things which are typically seen in the fitness community as high fat foods, predominantly fat foods, are actually protein foods, but they're not. So I want to talk a bit about protein content in foods and how that relates to how we build muscle and stay lean. So firstly, let's just do some quick math on peanut butter, because this is what we were talking about, but this applies to things like avocado as well. Now, if you just do some quick math on peanut butter, roughly per 100 grams of peanut butter, you're looking at about 600 calories, okay? So 600 calories is the total energy intake for about 100 grams of protein. Now, about 100 of those 600 calories is from protein. So that's about 25 grams of protein. Okay, so per 600 total calories, you're looking at about 100 calories from protein, or about 25 grams of protein. Now, if we do the math on that, that means that roughly 16% of peanut butter energy comes from protein. Now, if that is a major source of the protein in your diet, first of all, let's just tackle the first thing. 16% of protein, of energy from protein, is not a high protein food, right? A high protein food I would consider to be something upwards of 60, 70, 80, 90%. That's more a high protein food. And if you think of your big three categories, you've got your meats, you've got your fish, and you've got your whey. Okay, meat, fish, and whey, predominantly protein sources, and also whole protein, very bioavailable. Right, so if you're using those items as the predominant protein source and you're eating a lot of them, then odds are the protein content of your diet is pretty high. If you are on the fence of thinking that peanut butter is your protein source, odds are that because the rest of your diet is just going to be filled with carbs and fat, like this guy who was saying he likes to have oatmeal, oatmeal and bananas and honey, and then he uses peanut butter as his protein source. Well, odds are the diet as a whole is probably more like 5 to 10% of protein. Now, where this becomes problematic is that these types of people, they usually have problems with their body fat. Now, the first reason they have problems with the body fat is that is a astronomically low amount of protein for anyone to eat. Okay, if you're on, say, a 2,000 calorie diet, that would mean something like 200 of those calories are from protein. And if you take 200, that's about, what is that, 50 grams of protein, which is rock bottom. We want to be at least quadrupling that. Now, if we go ahead and look at some of this data from, this is from Marty Kendall from Nutrient Optimizer. Marty Kendall's a great guy, really intelligent. He drew up a chart of data from MyFitnessPal entries, and he looked at the percentage of calories from protein across hundreds of thousands of data entries of regular people like you and me who had added information to MyFitnessPal. And what he found was that the caloric intakes typically were higher when the level of protein in the diet was lower. So as the percentage of your diet decreases, so this is across all calorie levels, so whether you're a small woman or a large guy, whatever you're eating, as the percentage of protein in your diet gets lower and lower, the amount you overeat relative to your own basal metabolic rate gets higher and higher. So essentially, you just naturally want to eat more when your protein is a lower portion of your overall diet. And this stated that when your protein is at about 10%, that's when you're eating pretty much the most calories. Yeah. Now, as your protein intake starts to get higher and higher, we see this reduction of total caloric intake relative to BMR. So as we hit the sort of 30-ish%, that's when people roughly kind of hit maintenance. And if you think about it, 30% of calories from protein, let's take a typical, I don't know, let's take a 2,000 calorie diet, which is, I guess, fairly representative of the population. 2,000 calorie diet, 30% of that is what, 600 calories. It's about 150 grams of protein. So it's not much protein. Now, as we start to push the protein proportion of the diet higher and higher, we see that the amount of calories we eat relative to the BMR gets lower and lower and lower. So essentially, as the food quality gets higher, the food quality determined by the amount of whole protein we're eating, the amount of calories that people naturally eat gets lower and lower and lower. So what's the take-home message here? Take-home message is that, well, firstly, peanut butter is not a protein source, it's a fat source. But secondly, in terms of percentage of a diet, we should really be aiming for, I would say, probably a good target is between 30 to 40%. Now, if you can get higher than that, great, but then it does start to become impractical. So let's say if you're trying to go higher than that on a, I don't know, 2,000 calorie diet, let's take that number again. Let's say we go for 50%, and that's like over 200 grams of protein, which is a lot of protein for a 2,000 calorie diet. But if you can do that, odds are you're going to be less hungry. You're going to naturally want to eat less because you've got that tighter control on your diet and you're fulfilling your body with the amount of protein it actually needs. See, the thing is, you can look this stuff up in terms of the protein leverage theory, but your body is relatively intelligent in terms of knowing what it needs for survival. So but the way it falls down is it doesn't always necessarily can tell you what you need. It just tells you need more food. So if you're consuming a lot of very highly palatable, highly caloric, like carbs and fats and things which you like this guy who liked his oatmeal and honey and bananas for breakfast. I mean, that's just dessert. that's just having a breakfast as a pudding. What a breakfast. But if you're doing that constantly, then I mean, no wonder you're going to be eating so much because your body is craving out for the protein you're not even giving it. So, so the moral of the story is: one, peanut butter is not a good source of protein. Two, the more as you start to nudge up the percentage of calories in your diet that come from protein, you naturally eat less and less. Okay, and I suppose the third lesson is, you're not a kid anymore. Like, your diet should not be composed of honey and bananas all day. Like, eat some goddamn meat, eat some protein, eat some fish, have some whey. You're an adult, not everything has to be sweet and saucy in life. Like, have something that's actually good for you for once. So anyway, that's more of a Gen Pop message. I just found that if this was a misconception, which, somebody of Gen Pop still has in 2022, then it's something that's worth addressing in a video. I actually Googled where this comes from. So I wrote in Google, peanut butter, good source of protein. And a bunch of articles came up from like CNN, Healthline, stuff like that. So popular news outlets, which are telling Joe Public, hey, you know what? Peanut butter is a good source of protein. So it's no wonder people believe this stuff. It's the surface level education that they do have about nutrition tells them that peanut butter is a good source of protein. And obviously, everybody likes to hear things which supports kind of stuff they want to do anyway. So, if I turn around and said, actually, yeah, you should drink wine every night for the bioflavonoids or whatever, instead of just getting it from grapes, then obviously people like to hear good things about their vices. So, hey, I like tasty peanut butter with lots of sugar added and lots of fat and tastes creamy and lovely with my oatmeal. CNN told me it's great, so they start to believe it. So, whereas if you dig just like an inch deeper, you get to the truth of the matter is you're really being hoodwinked. And I think if you're anything at all interested in your physique, you owe it to yourself really to do some digging. And for you guys who are regulars on my channel, like, you should know this, But as I said at the beginning of the video, I never underestimate where gaps are in people's education. So I think this video is worth making because I think it's definitely still a thing that people believe in this day and age. We can't all assume that we all are just perfect with our knowledge. There are always going to be gaps, but hopefully this hit the nail on the head for at least a few of the viewers. So I will speak to you guys in the next one.